All right. Hello. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the pre-market rundown for what is this now? May 8th, 2023. The year absolutely flying by. But this is our daily session, right? And it's very important because specifically it's a Monday, right? So this is our daily session, but Monday sessions are most important because we lay out the expectations for the week, right? So we're talking about what major economic events do we have on the calendar? What major earnings do we have? Right? All of that plays a role in our expectations for this week and our game plan for this week and how we attack the week. Expectations are everything in markets. If you expect the market to skyrocket and it chops or it drops, what happens? You're likely to lose money. So setting the correct expectations for your week on Monday is probably the most important event that you have in your week of trading, right? And I don't say that lightly. Mondays are the most important days. If you can't get to any one of these sessions, get here for the Monday one, right? Because that's where we're laying out the whole landscape. So it's very, very important, right? But we're here each and every day, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, going over the important news, analysis, information, trade ideas, right, for that day. So in order to keep you consistently profitable, we make sure that we're here game planning each and every day. And if you enjoy that, right, share it, share this stream, send it to people, share it on your story, et cetera, et cetera. So that we can get everybody prepped and ready for the day ahead, right? And of course, it is absolutely free. Can't beat that. So, when we do gather here, though, we do have intention with what we're doing. We're spending our time here for a reason. It's not just hang out, right? Have a good time. We are looking to get 1% better. That's the goal each and every day, to get 1% better. If we can do that, then we can cross that off the list for the day and said, hey, I had a great day today. I can go to sleep and feel grateful, right? Have gratitude, be proud of myself for what I did, right? For how I performed. So we're looking to do that again this morning. And each and every day we state that intention by putting a one in the chat. So if you're watching this live or watching it via replay, make sure you comment that one, signifying your intention to get 1% better by the end of this little shindig that we have going on here. And that way you can start your day off on the right foot, right? With the right take. Because, too often people come into the market flat footed, they don't execute, they don't move, and then you miss that, big move of the day, which might be the only trade that you needed, right? So really make sure that when you press that one, you are coming in with the intention to execute, right? With the intention to move, not just you sitting there and saying, okay, yeah, I'm ready, Adam. I'm ready. Get the session started. Because then what happens? The market moves, we get started. Were you ready? Right? Did you make that money or not? Right? If you weren't ready, the next time, maybe you need to do some push-ups, right? Hype yourself up and then actually press that one, right? Actually be ready, because you don't want to press that and then be flat-footed when that opening bell rings, right? This is to get us ready for the fight that ensues after that bell rings. So let's dive into the news that we have for this week. I'll also pull that news up as well as give people a second to make their way in here. So let me see. We got a few. Awesome, awesome. All right. And if you need to, for anybody here who might need to get on my calendar, if you need to do a one-on-one, you need to do that. Make sure that you just book it, right? Even if you're like, hey, I want to do it next month, something like that. My calendar is filling up fast as I'm going through this email. Literally all that I have right now is Calendly books for calls. So if you're like, hey Adam, I want to, I'm not doing as well as I would like to do, or I want to step things up, or I want to refine my trading strategy, or I want to talk to you about what strategy works best for me, how to avoid some of the pitfalls that I'm currently falling into, right? You want to book that one-on-one, book it, right? Get on my calendar. I tell people immediately, get on that calendar, because my calendar now is booking up faster than ever. So just make sure that you're on that bad boy, right? And also make sure that you're coming there with intention with how you spend your time. Because now I'm having less and less of it. So I want to make sure that each and every time I'm spending some time somewhere, it's for the right reasons, right? So let's see here. Pulling up, I might just go ahead and search for those of you who don't know some things about me. Here we go. Sometimes I absolutely struggle with finding things. So I'm glad that we have this nice little Control F feature where I can pull up the week ahead, right? And what we need to expect out of this week in terms of markets. So talking about the week ahead, laying the groundwork, the April CPI report is due out on Monday, May 10th. So what is that? Let me see here. Oh, not Monday, May 10th. I was about to say, because today is the 8th. I guess that's Wednesday, right? So we get CPI data on May 10th. That's the headliner event of the week. So we get, inflation data, CPI, consumer price index that measures inflation, right? We get inflation data on Wednesday before the bell, right? 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. is when we get inflation data. So Wednesday before the bell, we get inflation data. That is the big headliner of the week, right? So Monday, Tuesday, that action can kind of, be determined by what we get on Wednesday, or it be action in anticipation of what we get on Wednesday, right? So we may get some chop in anticipation of that news, right? But overall, you need to make sure that is on your calendar, right? Let's see here. Um, Alexa, remind me at 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday of this week that inflation data comes out tomorrow morning.
Okay, I'll remind you tomorrow at 3:30 p.m.
Boom. And now you won't forget, right? So whenever you have big data coming out the morning before and you're like me, you forget, right? You might have that memory of a goldfish. Ask your amazing voice assistant, right, in order to set a reminder for you, because that way you don't get snuck up on things. And because again, 2 days, a lot happens. You're sitting there, you might have, all these trades on, and you forget, oh, we get inflation data tomorrow. And that inflation data's result ends up tanking all your trades, right? And you're like, man, I can't believe this. I actually knew about this, right? And I didn't set the reminder. So do everything you need to do in order to put yourself in the best position to win, right? That's the name of the game here. Whether it's setting a reminder, putting things in your calendar, right? Do it. It literally makes you money, right? If you need any other impetus, right? Any other driving force behind your actions, it literally makes you money, right? Or it saves you from losing money. Both are good, right? Both are positives. Make sure that you're doing what's necessary, right? So whether that is for everybody who's on here, right, and you don't have access to that beginner trader bundle, I don't care if you have been with me, right? This is something that you need access to. So this is like everything that I'm creating now is something for where everyone is at, right? So that's the link in bio over on my Instagram, right? Get access to that, because I'm constantly coming out with things to help better people along their trading journey, right? So for a lot of people who struggle with setting goals, who might struggle with little things that fell beneath the cracks, right? Everyone is different. Everybody goes through the course differently. Everybody goes through my multiple sets of courses differently, right? A masterclass differently. And I've noticed that some people will just miss something that I said, and then they see it in another document. They're like, oh, I never had this set up that way, or I didn't know that I needed this type of account, or I didn't know that this is where I should go for this, or I didn't know that this is a trap that, people commonly fall into, right? I consider myself a new trader, right? Everybody consider yourself a new trader because each day is a new day, right? So anything out there that could help you in terms of your foundation is huge, because where traders find their downfall is they think they're too experienced for the world that's changing each and every day, right? That is what I've seen overall is, people that just used to kill the game, and they refuse to constantly update themselves because they think, oh, I've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What does the market have to teach me? It's a new world, which means it's a new market, right? So each and every day, I don't care how much time you spend, forever humble, forever a student, forever a new trader, right? And if you're tuning in for the first time here, you literally get access to that for $20, right? It's not going to be that for long. I love that bundle put together for myself, a custom AI to help you guys answer questions as well. So you get access to that within that. I love the fact that, that product is available, and I love all the things that I'm going to be able to do with it. Might be able to completely outsource myself at some point, right? We'll see. Maybe I'm just helping to replace myself. But I'm fine with that, right? I'm committed to controlling what I can control. But at the end of the day, right, even if you are somebody who you're like, oh, yeah, I'm used to trading, Adam, I've been with you for months, that's fine. You still need things like that financial freedom map to help you map out your goals, right, in terms of what you should be aiming for to bring in weekly, monthly, in order to, really kind of circumvent all of your expenses, right? So a number of great things there. That was kind of a little mini announcement, but definitely if you're new, that is your starting point, right? If everybody I taught, I could have start from there, that's what I would want. So make sure you get access to that. Also, let's see here. In terms of what we have going on this week, Seeking Alpha analyst John Matson said in his breakdown of the recent Federal Reserve meeting, the FOMC members are staying right on track in the fight against inflation, but pointed to other variables in the mix, such as the weakening U.S. dollar and bank liquidity issues. In terms of earnings, we have PayPal on Monday, May 8th. Is that before or after the bell? I wonder. Let's see. Gonna check on that. PayPal looks like aftermarket Central Time. So yeah, we'll see kind of what's going on with PayPal. My gut initial reaction with PayPal is just like, I feel like with Apple entering the fintech space, like I feel like all the PayPal, Square, right, will block, as it's now known as. I feel like are just facing tough competition. Like it's tough whenever Apple says, "Yeah, we're coming for your sector." I don't really know how you combat that, so we'll see, right? But my initial reaction for seeing like, oh, PayPal has earnings, and that is not me doing a deep dive into it. That's just my, again, initial knee-jerk reaction. It's like, man, I would not like to be PayPal, because even though I love PayPal, it's just, when you got Apple in the space, it makes for a tough road ahead. Tyson Foods also reports, KKR reports, Lucid Group, and Freshpet. For Tuesday, we have Duke Energy, DUK. We have Airbnb, ticker ADNB. We got Fox, and then what else? Also Nikola, right? The Tesla killer that had all that hype, and the stock absolutely plummeted. On Wednesday, we have Disney, right? Huge household name. We got Disney on Wednesday. We have the Trade Desk, ticker TTD. We have Roblox, right? RBLX. We have LI Auto, or Lee Auto, whose ticker is LI. And then earnings spotlight on Thursday, JD.com, whose ticker is JD. They're a big Chinese company. U.S. Foods, and then News Corporation. And then, oh, wow, I did not even know that Soho House was a publicly traded company. I guess so, but Soho House and Spectrum Brands are both reporting on Friday. Whenever it's earnings season, you have the ability to play earnings continuation, right? Earnings continuation is something that I talk about. I've talked about a good amount. Let me see. I don't know if let me see, pull this back up. I don't know if Alicia is on this call. Yeah, Alicia's on this call. Alicia, you ran up 530% using that same strategy for earnings continuation last week on Shopify, last Friday, right? In addition to what we ran up on SPY calls. So you had an amazing Friday, right? But again, all about empowering people to feed themselves. Like, that is huge. And that is the stuff that really brings tears to my eyes when I hear that. So I just want to highlight that. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, 565%. Absolutely baller, right? Absolutely baller. Throw a 3 in the chat if you want to rake in a 565% play this week, right? We all want to get like you. We want to get like you, Alicia. I appreciate the great work you're doing and executing on. But it's important, right, to recognize that earnings is not the only way that you make money off of an earnings stock, right? Post earnings, you can make great money. Pre-earnings run up, you can make great money. It's really important to recognize that, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to take a guess on earnings. And it's really hard to get that right? And even if you do get that right, sometimes the Ivy Crush still kills that trade. So it's important to recognize that if something gaps up on earnings and then we kind of peak below, a low, right, a low level before market open, and then we get back above when we break that high, right, we're probably going to run on that earnings stock, right? If we gap up, we come back to touch a pre-market support, we dip beneath it for a quick bit, right? And then we come back above to get back above that opening price. That stock is likely going to continue to run. That made us big money on Meta, right? It works on all these different. So you don't have to wait for me to say, oh, hey, check this out, check that out, right? You don't have to wait for me to do that. You can go and say, oh, okay, what stocks have earnings, right? Let me check out what they look like pre-market. If they do, that sequence of events, like I just stated, like there are some stocks that drop and they pop, right, to retest kind of, pre-market level. And then they peak above it, they come back beneath it, right? The look above is always bearish. If we peak above a resistance level and drop back down beneath it, that's bearish, right? If we peak above a pre-market resistance level on a like a post-earning stock, right, we come back beneath it and then we dip beneath that opening print, right? Whatever that opening level is, that's bearish, right? You can get puts on that stock. That stock is likely to continue down, right? See continued selling. So you don't have to be in on the initial move to make a literal crap ton of money, right? You don't have to be in on that initial move. You can play the move afterward, right? The continuation of that move, and it'd be absolutely amazing for you. So all the little nuggets that get dropped, that's why I say, again, we start this off with the one, with you saying, I declare the intention to get 1% better, because there are a lot of little nuggets that are dropped in these sessions, right? So don't just sit there and it's in one ear and out the other. Really, really take into your heart, right? Into your mind, into your game plan, what I am talking about. Write that down if you need to write it down, right? And then you can move forward and execute, from that. But that's something that I've talked a lot about, and it's something that in earnings season can really work out well for you, right? And you don't have to worry about actually playing the earnings itself, which is an amazing hack that I've just learned from years and years and years of doing this, right? It's years and years and years of trial and error for me that you get in one statement, right? And I feel like people underestimate that. They think, oh, Adam's just talking again. No, I had to literally years and thousands of dollars it took me to figure this out. Right. So when I say it, you getting this guidance is literally a distillation of experiences, right? It's a distillation of experiences that costs you nothing because this session is free. Amazing. Right. So in terms of economic news, CPI preview, the April inflation report will be one of the marquee events next week, with headline inflation forecast to increase 0.4% month over month and be up 5.6% from a year ago. Energy prices are likely to have risen during the month. and food prices are not anticipated to show the deceleration that they did in March. Airfares and healthcare insurance are two categories expected to see a month-over-month decline. Seeking Alpha contributor Craig Erlam contended that core inflation, which strips out volatile food and energy prices, quote, might only slow a bit, but that should start to fall more quickly in the coming months as the housing lag will better reflect softening rent and home prices. So overall, it's kind of a preview of what we expect out of the CPI data this week, right? April inflation forecast to increase 0.4% month over month and be up 5.6% from a year ago. Energy prices are going up. Food prices are, not slowing down as much as they did in the previous month. So overall, we just have to wait and see, right, what we end up getting from that. But the CPI data, it can cause big moves, but it's not guaranteed to, right? And I think that's what's important to note is that, CPIs mess people up because they expect big moves, right? They try and do a strangle, right? They'll get calls and puts and then cut whichever one doesn't work and then, hold the one in the direction. But we've seen CPI data happen in us completely reverse direction. We've seen CPI and, we gap up and then we sell down the whole day, right? We've also seen CPI data come out and there be no movement. So people just get screwed on that, right? Because they anticipate big movement and we don't get it. So again, that's when you start gambling. When you are gambling, kind of placing your bets on the direction after news drops. That's when you get into gambling, because it's just there's no way to know, right? So if you do indulge in that, just understand, right? You just understand that, hey, going into this, I can lose this money, right? And as long as your expectations are correct, you can't really get disappointed, right? Now let's see here. Short interest on Virgin Galactic, ticker Space, SPCE, and Cinemark, ticker CNK, is still elevated. Options trading volume is elevated on Western Alliance Bank Corporation, WAL, right? And then Metropolitan Bank Holding, ticker MCB. Another stock on the watch list is Valaris, ticker VLRS. Now let's see here. That's pretty much all that we have here for the week ahead. So let's dive in to what we have for our Monday specific news. All right, top news. May the 4th be with you for all my Star Wars people out there. It may not be cloud cars or desert skiffs, but the FAA has some pretty bold plans that could soon bring Star Wars to life. According to an updated operational blueprint released by the agency, changes to airspace procedures would be made to accommodate flying taxis and new innovative aircraft. Other considerations to take into account include ventiports or vertiports. I guess those are ports, kind of like helicopter pads where you take off vertically. Vertiports, existing infrastructure, travel routes, and air traffic communication, which will all help usher in the next era of aviation. Now, what will the industry look like in 10 years? I expect that we have air taxis at scale, especially in all of our major cities. Acting FAA Administrator Billy Nolan said at the Wall Street Journal's Future of Everything Festival, if we've gotten it right from the regulatory framework, from the level of safety that the public expects, and if all that comes together, then it's a world that we only thought about as science fiction before it becomes science fact in the moment. Now, traditional plane makers like Airbus and Boeing, as well as commercial carriers like American Airlines, Delta, and United, are pouring millions into flying taxis. eVTOL, I guess EVTOL is how it's spelled, so however you pronounce that, eVTOL prototypes and transportation partnerships. They are betting that the sector will one day shuttle passengers between airports and city centers and could even help the airlines reach carbon neutral targets. Other air mobility firms with skin in the game include Archer Aviation, ticker ACHR, Eve Air Mobility, ticker EVEX, Joby Aviation, ticker JOBY, Lilium, ticker LILM, and then Vertical Aerospace, ticker EVTL. So this is like all the different, kind of robo-taxi, flying taxi companies for those who aren't aware. So that's a nice little peek into that sector. In a galaxy far, far away, the FAA expects to grant approval to the first air taxis as soon as next year, but it won't be easy becoming the chosen one. Prototypes and development will have to pass safety approvals, operating guidelines, and airspace integration, while the flying public will have to embrace them as a safe alternative. The industry might also have to scale to make the price point affordable and may eventually turn to pilot automation with humans on the ground monitoring operations. Quote, one risk I am seeing with coverage of urban air mobility or eVTOL names is that the disruptive technology is often equated to value creation, while this is not the case, writes SA or Seeking Alpha investing group leader Darren. I think that is important, right? To recognize that disruptive technology being created does not equate to value, right? People can create something where it's like, oh, that's cool, but like it doesn't necessarily translate to value. If there's not need for it in the marketplace and you don't create need for it, it doesn't take off, right? It doesn't end up being valuable. There's a lot of awesome stuff, right? If I said, hey, I can turn every piece of paper into a duck, it's like, wow, nobody's been able to do that. That's pretty crazy, right? That's disruptive. That guy's got something going there. And you look at, okay, what can he do in order to make money off of that? I don't really know. Like, it's cool, but I don't really know what he can do. There's not. Maybe you could sell them to Chinese restaurants, right? He could be a Peking duck, kingpin. But overall, there's only so much that you could do. So it's the same thing. We could come out with flying robo taxis. Does that mean that there is demand for them? I don't know. We'll see. Definitely in Dubai, right, or some places where people would like to flex. So big cities, right? Maybe Miami, New York City, LA, right? Something like that. Yeah, for sure. But we'll see, right? You got to make sure that the value is coming along with the disruption. And it's not just disruption for the sake of disruption itself. Now, in terms of central bank news here for our Monday specific news, meeting by meeting, the Federal Reserve hiked rates yesterday by a quarter. Hold up. Is this May 4th? May 4th. This is from last week, from the actual 4th. Where is my newest Seeking Alpha Wall Street breakfast? Hold on, somebody was probably in the comments. Adam, you're reading the May 4th report. Thank you, Vivian. I appreciate that. Sorry, I had this window up. And I had you guys on the stream up in another window. Let's see, May 6th. We'll move. Where is my one for today? Week ahead. Let me go back to my inbox. Oh wow, yeah. What was going on with my inbox? It had only taken me up to like yesterday's email. I just refreshed though, so we're back on it. What we didn't report right for May 4th last week. So there you go. You got a little bit of the reports from last week. I ain't mad at it, right? Because we actually, you know what? To be honest, I kind of do want to go over what they were talking about with the interest rates there. So I actually might go back to that. To be completely honest, guys, let me pull up Mondays in another window. But I wanted to because last week, right, I was out of town. We didn't really get the chance exactly to go over some of the stuff from last week. So I'd like to kind of have that. All right. Here we go. Let me close some of this stuff down. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm one of those people that has a bajillion windows open. So we got the laptop moving a little bit slowly this morning, but we're working it out. Can we get back to the inbox, guys? Or are we just frozen? All right, there we go. So I'm actually going to go back to the May the 4th be with you. Right, that did make sense. I was like, oh, what are we talking about? Oh, maybe they were catching up. It was just me catching up. Okay, cooling labor market. That's from the 5th. No, let me see what we had going on. Let me get back to the 4th. May 4th. All day. Tech daily. Yes, okay. So getting back to last week's meeting, right? Because we had the FOMC meeting last week. We had Powell speak. So talking about, last week, the Federal Reserve hiked rates by a quarter of a percentage point in a move that surprised almost no one, right? So they did what was expected. It was a unanimous decision by policymakers who seem to feel that the banking crisis is contained, inflation is too high, and labor demand is falling, but still strong. Quote, people did talk about pausing, but not so much at this meeting, Powell said in his post-decision press conference. We feel like we're getting closer or maybe even there, but are prepared to do more if greater monetary policy restraint is warranted. Mentions of tighter credit conditions also caught the attention of the market, with Wall Street having a new acronym to focus on, SLOOS, SLOOS. Elsewhere, Seeking Alpha contributor Elazar Advisors explores what the situation may mean ahead of next week's CPI print. So, yeah, I think that's very interesting, right? Again, it's important to recognize that the Fed is very data dependent, even though CPI is not their preferred measure of inflation. It is still something that markets watch, right? That markets pay attention to. So that is something, right, that you have to consider, right? Consider what the Fed said last week. in light of what we get this week, because they are data dependent. So, the market's reaction to the data that we get might also, that's like another layer added. You just think about the market as kind of like what is that? Like a 7 layer cake or something, right? Each week, what happened last week? Okay, that adds layer on. What's happening this week, right? That gives more context. So it just paints a picture. It paints a picture of the market each and every week. And I think that, the Fed raising by 25 basis points last week was expected. But I think what's really important is the rhetoric that we get from Powell, right? With him discussing, like, okay, what's happening? Are we talking about pausing? Are we not? Who's talking about pausing? Is there a whole lot of talk about it? Because that lets people know, okay, are you guys going to hike next session, right? Are we looking for more hikes? Is this the last hike? And Powell kind of continued to play the cards close to the chest and said, hey, we're going to worry about the hikes based off the data that we get, right? So we might get some more, we might not get some more. But it's just important to keep that in mind as we get into more inflation data this week. Now, top news here for today's, right, Monday specific news, no good options. So we're getting that deluxe pre-market prep session this morning. So the clock is ticking for a divided U.S. Congress to raise the federal government's debt ceiling. We're still doing this, guys. We're still going through this, which currently stands at $31.4 trillion, but risk running out of cash as soon as June 1st. Razor-thin margins in Congress are complicating the matter, as only a handful of rejections could derail any deal, and concessions are a lot harder to come by. With extreme flanks enveloping both sides of the debt limit debate, while President Biden has invited House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to a meeting on Tuesday, things can quickly spiral in the danger zone and is one of the three make-or-break crises now impacting the U.S., according to Seeking Alpha contributor ING. Now, in terms of quotes, quote, it's simply unacceptable for Congress to threaten economic calamity for American households and the global financial system as the cost of raising the debt ceiling and getting agreement on budget priorities, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told ABC this week. Quote, even as we get very close to this date, if Congress doesn't act, we're likely to see financial market consequences. There is no way to protect our financial system and our economy other than Congress doing its job in raising the debt ceiling and enabling us to pay our bills. As the U.S. gets closer to the brink of a default, talk has even circulated about possible emergency options that could be used to circumvent a disaster. Some ideas that have surfaced include invoking the 14th Amendment, as well as the trillion-dollar coin, which always comes back up, right, and issuing debt with coupons above current yields. While President Biden on Friday said he's, quote, not gotten there yet regarding using an option like the 14th Amendment, Janet Yellen was slightly more forthcoming about what would happen if an agreement to materialize on Capitol Hill. She kind of always does this, right? Whenever we are about to we need to raise the debt ceiling, Janet Yellen always comes out. It's like, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, everything is going to melt and all of our organs are going to disintegrate, right? That's pretty much, she's like the groundhog that pops out, right? For tell you if spring is coming or not. That's her. Whenever we get, near this whole debt ceiling thing, she's like, it's going to be widespread mayhem and planet-wide panic if we don't get the debt ceiling raised. So we've been going through the same saga for months. Does this, actively affect us as of right now in terms of markets? No, not really. They always seem to come to some type of agreement just in time. So I don't really let this factor in, right? When a lot of people say, hey, Adam, are you scared? Is the market falling because the debt ceiling is no, right? That's not a factor that's going to affect things. It really doesn't matter how much debt we have. I doubt we'll ever actually pay it back. So at this point, it's just so much that it's immaterial, right? That only really matters if you have it as an individual, but when governments have it, no one really cares, right? Why? Because the system is rigged, just how it is. So going deeper here, quote, we should not get to the point that we would need to consider whether the president can go on issuing debt. This would be a constitutional crisis, she declared. Quote, if they fail to do it, we will have an economic and financial catastrophe that will be one of our own making. And there is no action that President Biden and the U.S. Treasury can take to prevent that catastrophe. Let's see here. When pressed to answer whether there is a break glass alternative, Yellen didn't appear to rule anything out, but said she didn't want to consider emergency procedures as there were, quote, simply no good options. So, we're just ongoing with the debt ceiling saga, right? Will the debt ceiling get raised? Will we pass a new budget? Will we invoke the 14th Amendment, use the trillion-dollar coin, right? In reality, they'll get a deal done. Like, that's just how I look at it. They'll get a deal done. Doesn't affect things. It just seems to kind of be a point of contention because you live in a country that's involved with democracy, right? So everybody's got to convince this side to do this and this side to do that, and everybody's got to hold out to seem like they're, kind of sticking their roots down for their constituents, right, in their specific area, and then everybody comes to a deal. In terms of events, Woodstock for capitalists, thousands of Berkshire Hathaway shareholders and other investors flocked to Omaha, Nebraska this weekend to hear Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger speak at an event known as the Woodstock for Capitalists. The annual meeting came on the heels of an impressive set of earnings from the conglomerate, which owns and invests in a wide range of businesses from insurance to industrials. The discussion spanned a wide range of topics, including the economy, AI, Bitcoin, and CEO succession. While Buffett opened up about several stock positions, including his comment that Berkshire does not plan to acquire control of Occidental Petroleum. See other key takeaways from Seeking Alpha contributor Fishtown Capital. So overall, we have our big investor meeting where everybody discusses, all of the Buffetteers, right? They go there and they hear him speak and they discuss, the economy, all that great stuff. I think one of the big takeaways was that, Berkshire Hathaway sold a ton of stock, right? Berkshire Hathaway sold a ton of stock in the first quarter and they rebought their own shares, right? So what does that mean? That means I'm selling a bunch of stock, which means that I think now, he said it was based off of valuations just being at a high level, right? It seems unsustainable. So he's like, hey, I'm selling stock and I'm buying back my own stock, which means that I'm selling this stock that I don't want, taking profit on it, because I'm led to believe he likely thinks that we'll go down, right? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is that he's buying back his own stock. So he's saying, hey, I don't trust you guys because you guys don't sell when it's best to sell, but I do trust myself, right? So I'm going to go buy back my own stock because I anticipate it outperforming the rest of you guys' stock. So overall, like Buffett will make Buffett moves, and I'm not for following anyone, but I am for taking in information and making sure that builds context toward the decisions that I make because I want to make educated decisions. So when we look at the charts and we look at kind of what's happening fundamentally, that again makes you think, okay, cool. I hear Warren Buffett is selling, right? This is happening. This is going down. Maybe I give more credence when I see a downside possibility. Maybe I give more credence to that actually becoming a reality as opposed to just a possibility. So let's see here. So again, when Buffett sells, people notice, and he sold a lot of stock in the first quarter of this year. In terms of the economy reparations plan, California's reparations task force, which convened nearly 2 years ago, has given the final approval to a list of recommendations on how the state may compensate and apologize to Black residents for historical discrimination. Quote, reparations are not only morally justifiable, but they have the potential to address long-standing racial disparities and inequalities, said Representative Barbara Lee. They don't. It's as simple as that. Money does not solve money problems, right? I'll say that again. Money does not solve money problems. Put a 4 in the chat if you agree. Money does not solve money problems. Mindset solves money problems. Giving money to people to plug a wealth gap will not plug a wealth gap, right? What plugs the wealth gap is a holistic approach. When we talk about trading, investing, life insurance, right? Home ownership, equity, real estate. That is what bridges the gap. You getting a check, whether it's for $5,000, $20,000, $50,000, will not long-term change your economic standing if you don't change what's up here, right? Did stimulus checks really help anybody? Not most people, right? Because what did they do? They dumped it into stocks. They dumped it into something that they didn't know what they were doing. Because overall, if your mindset is not right, it does not matter how much money you get. That's why you have NFL players, NBA players, lottery winners. They go broke so quickly. Money does not solve money problems, right? So to be honest, I don't agree with reparations. I'd rather you put this into, programs, like education programs about financial literacy, business development, real estate, the stock market, right? Train people to shift their mindset. That is better than dumping money to someone, right? Blessings are a curse if you're not in a position to receive it, right? I think that's the issue, that a lot of people just want money and then they get it and they don't know what to do with it, and it's a curse to them, right? You don't need to be giving a curse to someone. You need to make someone the perfect receptacle to receive future blessings. People come across blessings and opportunities each and every day, but they don't have the mindset to perceive them, right? Let's build them up by giving them the mindset to understand what actually bridges the wealth gap, because handouts don't, because money does not solve money problems. Let's see here. So the proposals now go to state lawmakers to consider reparations legislation and a final sum, which some economists estimate could cost the state upwards of $800 billion, or almost 3 times the state's annual budget. Yeah, just don't understand. To be initially eligible, applicants must be a descendant of Black people who were in the country by the end of the 19th century, though there are not yet details on how the payments would be funded. Age, state residence, and other factors will also play a role in determining compensation. Yeah, it's just like, how do we determine this? How to, like, California wasn't even one of the states that had slaves, so everybody's going to complain about that. If taxpayers have to pay for it, that's only going to cause more like racial issues and tension and inequity, because a white taxpayer is going to look and say, why the heck do I have to pay these black residents if I wasn't involved? I wasn't a slave owner, right? And that it's just one of those things where it's just very hard, right? It's very hard to get done. And even if it does get done, I don't think that money in the long term helps a lot of people, right? So it's very tough, right? It's very tough. Like, handing money to people rarely helps people. And that's an unfortunate reality, but it is the reality. I've seen it way too many times because I've done it, right? I've done it. I'm sure you've done it, right? We all have people where we give them money, and has that money helped them? Not ultimately, right? Sometimes it does, right? It might buy you a little bit of time, might do this, might do that. But overall, we've all given money to somebody where it's just like, I know nothing's good is going to come of this, right? Um, so it's all about mindset. So if you know somebody's mindset needs to shift, make sure that they're here, right? If you care about it, love is action, right? Make sure that you're taking those actions. Hey, cuz, love you. Just reaching out to see how you're doing. Hey, if you want to, kind of level up your game, right? Tune into these free sessions, right? That's what this whole thing is about. It's a holistic approach, but it's gradual, right? It takes an uprooting process of uprooting a poverty mindset and rerooting a wealth mindset, right? It's an important process, but it is a process. So get people involved in the environment so that they are saturated with that, instead of just hearing it once and then it fades away, because the majority of what we see on social media, the news, right, traditional outlets, it's negative. Or it's consumer minded, right, or poverty minded. So in terms of stock news, moving on, right, the narrative, the market is priced in a much anticipated pause in the Fed tightening cycle, which many hope will give the green light to equities, though some caution that cuts aren't really bullish for stocks based on historical patterns, right? And that's what's very important to recognize, that just because we do pause, interest rate hikes, or we cut interest rates, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is bullish for stocks, right? And history has proven that there's not a one-to-one direct correlation where you say, okay, hey guys, we stopped hiking or we're cutting interest rates and the market doesn't necessarily go up, right? So that's important to know. That's an important novel piece of information that we have not covered yet, that is important to cover. Now, Fed Funds Futures predicts a 90% chance that the Fed keeps rates at 5 to 5.25% at the June meeting, and more than a 70% chance that cuts begin in September. And again, I remind you that, like, even with, Powell saying that there is a chance they don't raise again, the market still dropped after the FOMC news, right? So the discussion follows the strong April jobs report, which confirmed that the economy remains resilient, according to Seeking Alpha Investing Group leader Dan Victor, while contributor Jeremy Lacoste cites signs of normalization, but cautions that the constrained supply of the labor market remains inflationary. With the non-farm payrolls report out of the way, investors are now paying close attention to CPI numbers due out Wednesday. So in terms of today's markets, mixed bag here across the board in Asia. It looks like more green than red, but also, like, where are we now that we're close to open? Let's see what we're looking like. We're looking like close to open. Looks like QQQ, open red. It's like SPY, slightly green to flat. Yeah, slightly green, it looks like. So overall, we're coming in kind of neutral in terms of markets. But in Asia, Japan down 0.7%. Hong Kong, we're up 1.2%. China, we're up 1.8%. India up 1.2%. The footy in London is closed. Paris, we're up 0.2%. Frankfurt up 0.1%. Dow up 0.2%. S&P up 0.2%. Nasdaq flat. Crude oil is up 2.3%. Gold is up 0.3%. Bitcoin down 3.3% to 27,913. In terms of today's economic calendar, wholesale inventories at 10 a.m., that's something that could cause like a quick 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute type volatility. What else is happening? Regional banks revived Friday after a brutal week. What's next? Spending on weight loss drugs to rise exponentially through 2027. Coke, ticker KO, versus Pepsi, ticker PEP. Which is the better buy for dividends? Travel and leisure hiring may stay hot despite recessionary risks. Activist Nelson Peltz, said to be targeting Estee Lauder, ticker EL, was selling overdone. AI fears hit these stocks this earnings season. Tucker Carlson said to be prepping for war against Fox News. U.S. pipeline regulator aims to toughen rules for detecting methane leaks. After impressive Q4, what's in store for Palantir's earnings? Generative AI is all the rage. Tim Cook is asking for caution. Concerns raised over OTC use of Perrigo's birth control pill, OTC over the counter. And then the winner's best investment idea for a potential recession competition. So overall, those are the news and notes that will be paramount to success this week. We went over a lot, but this was laying down the game plan, right? This was us parsing out exactly what is important as we head into this new week. We have inflation data on Wednesday, right? The past few weeks, Monday has kind of been a day where you're more so kind of waiting and watching. We'll see, right? That doesn't guarantee that this Monday ends up being the same, but traditionally we've been getting the most action kind of Tuesday through Friday, right? So we'll see kind of what this Monday gives us, and we will remain aware, alert, and ready to execute. If you got anything positive from this session, and I know you did because we went over a heck of a lot of, valuable pieces of information, then just show love to the account, right? The reels that go up every day, the YouTube shorts, the TikTok videos, show love, throw some emojis, send it to someone, share it, save it, throw it in your story, right? That helps us continue to grow, to continue to help people to maintain their own financial vitality, control what they can control, and ultimately create the lives they're looking to create. So I'm excited to dive into this week. Last week was amazing. We had multiple 1,000% plays across the board, right? We had multiple people quadrupling, tripling their accounts, right, in a day, right? We had a number of people bringing home big paydays despite me being out of town. So make sure that if you didn't execute, you're looking to execute this week, right? You can't change the past. The past lives in your head. The future lives in your hands. So use these hands to do whatever is necessary to succeed, right? I don't care if you're like, oh, I thought I could do this and I didn't. I thought I could do this alone. Let me ask this question. Do it, right? There is no shame in doing what you need to do to succeed. So for everybody here, if that's you that I'm speaking to about that, right? Do what's necessary, right? No pride, no shame, no holds bar, right? Get after it. Do whatever you need to do specifically in order to win. And if you don't know what that is, reach out and ask questions. Hey, Adam, I'm busy. What can I do to work around my schedule in order to take advantage of these opportunities? Hey, Adam, like, what are some tips that you use, right? I use my voice assistant a lot. I use a number of things, but there are ways to work it out. Don't just say, oh, man, I'm really busy. I don't think I'll be able to trade, or I'm really busy. I don't know I'll be able to do this. You don't want that money bad enough, right? If you want it, you figure out a way, and we can work together to figure out a way. But make sure that you want it, right? If you want it, throw a 5 in the chat. Make it known that you want it, that you're going to do what you need to do this week in order to accomplish your goals. Then you can have amazing weeks like we did last week, right? This week can be your week. Next week can be your week, but you got to do what's necessary. I have no shame about it. I don't care if I have to hire somebody, if I got to pay somebody. I don't care how old they are, right? If you have value, I'm learning from you. I don't care if you're 5, 10, 15 years old. If you got something to teach me, I'm ready to teach. I have no pride, right? You can't have pride in this game because you won't make money, right? So make sure that you're willing to do what's necessary, and let's get after it this week. So that's my little pump up to you guys before the bell. We have the bell ringing in 7 minutes, so I'll get after it, get into the Facebook group. Everyone have an amazing rest of the day. You got 1% better. Congratulations on that. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session. Have a good one.